Hi, I'm Doc Palmer. I'm the author of McGraw-Hill's best-selling reliability book, the Maintenance Planning and Scheduling Handbook. Planning and scheduling is a best practice. Unfortunately, it's a little bit tricky, and most people find it a source of great frustration, actually to be counterproductive and wasting one of their craftspersons to be a planner. But properly done, planning is running a Deming cycle. We're not giving perfect job plans. We're performing a craft historian function to make job plans better year after year after year. Nobody's perfect. We can't start out being perfect, telling people how to do their job. We have professional craftspersons. We want to suck their information into our system so that we retain that. We institutionalize it. And then scheduling is not just to complete the schedule. If schedule compliance was our objective, we would just underload the schedule and have great schedule compliance. But we would be not completing more work than we normally complete. In fact, the purpose of scheduling is to help us complete more work than we would normally complete without a schedule. And that to do that, we have to fully load schedules and expect lower schedule compliance. But today, I want to move toward using the computer. We've been visualizing a paper system. And I want to quote a good friend of mine, Rick Baldridge. He's an executive at Cargill. Cargill is one of the largest privately held companies in the world. And Rick says this in various ways, but he says, if you're going to make me use a computer, please don't slow me down. And then he also says, if we have to use a CMMS, please make it quick and painless. So those are great perspectives for what we want to do. CMMS is the computerized maintenance management system. That's been changed now toward, most people are saying EAM, which is Enterprise Asset Management. And they use it as a TLA, which is a three-letter acronym, EAM. There's a lot of TLAs out there. I think there are other words for it too now. But basically, we want to go from using a paper system to a computer system. With a paper system, we have somebody writes a work request, and that comes to the planning department. We put the idea on there, what we're going to do. We think they need one gasket and a short ladder. That goes out in the field for execution. It could be through a schedule or not. And then when it comes back to us, we just drop that into a paper file. That would be for the north side 2 condensate polisher anion regeneration valve number 5. So we want to use individual files. I call them mini files, as in MINI, versus a large system file. We don't want to save all the information for the condensate polisher in one large file, because we want to use those files over the years for each asset. Next time we work on that asset, we have to go to it and find it and get out the information we need. Large files are for legal requirements. You have to save the information. You hope you'll never have to look for the information. If you do, you'll mount a project to go through the files. Short, small files, it takes longer to file, but we're using those files. Like when you go to the dentist, you want to file for yourself. I want to file for Doc Palmer. It's like your mail. I want the mail delivered to my mailbox, not to my city, not to my state, not just to my country. So we want that miniature mini for that device, for that asset, what we want to do. Well, every CMMS has a living module for that. And Maximo is called the Job Plan module. I think in Oracle it's called Benchmarks. For Advantis, I think it's called the Standard Work Order. For SAP, it's called Task List. Everybody has that, and that's where we want to do the saving of a living job plan. It's not just a static paper file. In fact, we might be able to move away from those altogether. So when a work request comes in, the first thing the planner does is look over in this living plan module. And they'll look over there and say, do I already have a living plan for that asset? There might be 2 or 3, one for replacing it, one for replacing the gaskets, one for painting it, one for doing something else to it. So you might have 2 or 3 job plans for each asset, but we want to do it by the asset. Then the planner will add the information. I need 1 gasket and say a short ladder. Then they will hyperlink back, come back, absorb that into your job plan electronic document itself. And on that job plan in here, it'll put the 1 gasket and a short ladder. Then in execution, whether we go through a schedule or not, this running a dimming cycle is separate from that. The mechanic will find out they really needed 2 gaskets and a longer ladder. And that information will go back to the planner, and the planner will look at that. It might be tagged a certain way with a certain status. Maybe complete dash planner, where the planner needs to look at those. It might be a checkbox, the electronic form. The planner is able to easily sort those out. Might just be as easily as looking at planner or some feedback special word where the planner can run a report to find that. The planner will notice that the mechanic really needed 2 gaskets and a longer ladder. This is not rocket science, by the way, but it's the continual improvement to greatness, a little step at a time. And the planner will update the living job plan, say, okay, well, now we have 2 gaskets and a longer ladder, and we may or may save the paper feedback if it went into the field as a piece of paper. We'll save the history of what all that they did and everything. So now we have a living plan of 2 gaskets and a longer ladder for that device. In this case, let's say it was the Northside. The work order was written in Northside 2, condensate polisher, anion regeneration 5. And over here we had a job plan for that condensate polisher, anion regeneration 5. And it might be have a subtitle of it was leaking. So what did we do about it? Okay, so now we've got the job plans in there. And yes, it's an extra step that the planner has to make. And it's aggravating. And why can't we just look at old work orders? Well, the problem looking just at old work orders is here's your history. In that mini file, paper file or electronic, there's all these different completed work orders. One time you use 1 gasket, one time you use 2 gaskets, one time you use 1 gasket, another time you use 3 gaskets, one time you use 2 gaskets, and another time you use 2 gaskets. What is the right number of gaskets? Over the years, maybe we've written the feedback down, maybe we didn't know, maybe we took an extra gasket out, but we crumpled it and didn't need to use it. So looking at history is pretty inefficient. What we want to do is, in this job plan, this living job plan, just okay, when we get it sorted out, we know it's 2 gaskets. And over the year, we might assess the feedback. Somebody uses 3. We might want to talk to that mechanic. Well, why did you take 3 gaskets when we always use 2 gaskets? Maybe there's a certain reason to take 3 gaskets. Maybe it's a gasket that's easily damaged, and so you're better off going to that end of the plant with 3 gaskets. But we would write that on the job plan, and the job plan would be a better and better and better heads up. Now, you might have noticed that we want to tie that to the asset number. The Northside 2 condensate polisher anion regeneration valve number 5. We don't want to just have a generic job plan to work on a valve. Well, your mechanics know how to work on valves. Your instrument techs know how to work on instruments. Your electricians know how to work on motors and control panels and things. We want to have a specific, on that specific valve, what was special. Now you might have this model valve in 3 or 4 different places, but every valve could fail in one of maybe 50 to 100 different ways. But every specific valve has one or two predominant failure modes. And when we go work on it, we want to know, what was that special thing I needed to know for that? Well, I need a longer ladder. Your other valves of that exact same model might not be where you need a longer ladder. Maybe you don't need a ladder. Maybe you have to bend over and work on it and find it because it's almost under something. So the job plan is just not a specification for a manufactured device. It's how we work on that thing that we work on. And your operators need to get that number, and it really helps if they get that number off the field device, not drill down. We have, when I worked for the electric company, JEA, we had several power plants, north side, south side, and Kennedy generating station. Imagine that. North side had units 1, 2, and 3 and each one of these major steam units had a bunch of different systems. The fuel oil service system, the condensate polisher system, the boiler feed system, and different things. And then under the condensate polisher, there's different tanks, there's 100 different vices. Your operators, when they drill down, sometimes they take a wrong turn at Albuquerque and they end up with some number over here. That's not the number we need. It really helps when they're in the field to get that north side 2 condensate polisher anion regeneration valve number 5. So it really helps if your plant is field tagged. And there's no perfect system. Everybody's always changing their system. You need to have a system of unique numbers for your different vices. And speaking of these reusable plans that nearly all CMMSs have, if you were to look at the number of discrete individual job plans that they have over time, it's usually constant because they're only used for preventive maintenance jobs. So if you started out with 1,000, you'll have 1,000, after several months or a year. And we know that's not the purpose of that, but the way it's taught sometimes is that this job plan module is used for preventive maintenance and for other jobs that you're going to repeat a lot of times. Well, that's not very good teaching technique or idea in your mind. Just about every job you work on, we're going to do again. I like to say there's a 50% rule. If you work on a job today, there's a 50% chance within a year you're going to be working on that job again. Might be a different person, might be a slightly different job, but we're going to do it again. And then over 5 years, I think there's an 80% chance. If you work on something today, within 5 years, you're going to be working on it again. Why should you reinvent the wheel or have to look at history? We should have this living job plan that we're slowly accumulating for that. And because it's so infrequent that we work on stuff, even though we work on it frequently. That sounds like an oxymoron. It's a different person, work on a lot of stuff. You might work on it twice in a year, maybe twice in 2 years. It's just a lot of stuff that we do. It just seems like we're always doing something different. We have to make our planners do that. We should be continually working on that. And then the number of job plans in our library should be going up. Every time we work on something, we're making a reusable job plan for it. And then right at about 6 months, there's a kink where the total number of job plans in our library is not growing as much. Why do you think that is? It's because of the 50% rule. After about 6 months, we start reusing a significant number of those. I had the privilege of working with this great instrument tech. He was an instrument tech at the electric company for 20 years. And then he worked with me as a planner for about 10 years. And when he first started planning, I was looking over his shoulder and he was planning the work order directly on the work order instead of the living job plan. And I said, look, I want you to plan over here in the job plan and then attach it to the work order. Well, that'll take extra time. How about I push this button at the bottom of the work order where I can convert it into a job plan? Well, we end up getting lazy and we don't do that. So from scratch, I want a plan right here. Well, Doc, we'll probably never do this job again. But what does probably mean? Well, it's conceivable we might do it in 5 years, but I bet you we don't. Well, look, if there's any chance that we would ever do it, and just not to take a chance, plan it over here. Well, okay. Well, it was like a vicious meeting. It was not a happy meeting. But then, to his credit, this planner came 6 months later and gave me a shirt jerk, said, Doc, when you told me viciously to use the job plan for everything? Well, I don't remember it quite that way. So what? Well, I decided that just to spite you, I would plan everything in the job plan module, even tying my shoes, just to show how stupid it was. But Doc, I'll have to tell you, after 6 months, suddenly, every other time I plan a new work order, I've already got a job plan for it. I don't have to research history again. I've got the information right there last time. I can grab it, tweak it, and it'll be a great time saver for me. It was a great thing we decided to do. And I think we decided together to do that. And it was a learning experience for me, just learning, getting used to this. It really does work. So we want to use the job plan module. We want to tie it to the asset numbers. In most cases, when I say always, there's always a special case where it doesn't make sense. We don't just want for that model pump. We want for that pump, that valve. So we're going to talk more about the computer in the coming episodes, but thank you for letting me be part of your maintenance family, and we'll see you in the future, and God bless.